Yo, this is the Scarcity Studios YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. And our sponsors are Alpha Claims and Hire Birmingham, the leading and best accident management company. Get a replacement car anywhere in 1 hour. Encro Chat. This story has been developing throughout lockdown, but it actually goes back to 2016. Recently, law enforcement agencies across Europe arrested multiple people suspected of using Encro Chat to conduct criminal activities. It appears that a large-scale, coordinated operation against both the network and users has been orchestrated by the FBI, NCA, and also other law enforcement agencies. EncroChat is one of a number of brands that operate within the encrypted phone market. The phones are typically Android based with a custom operating system loaded onto it. Often the phones are physically altered to remove certain functionalities including GPS location, the microphone or the camera. Phones were sold with a remote kill switch function as well that you send a code to and it would automatically wipe it clean. Other brands that are in the market as well: EncroChat, Phantom Secure, Ghost Phones, Sky ECC, Cypher and Omerta. The phones could typically only communicate with each other on the same device as it was a secure network. The finally released stories connected to EncroChat in the mainstream media. For the past few weeks, no other media apart from Vice News has actually acknowledged that this actually happened. Today, in The Guardian, The Independent, BBC News, all the mainstream medias have released a story that says that 700 people have been arrested in the biggest ever UK operation against organised crime after an encrypted phone network was cracked. Police hailed the victory against kingpin criminals after £54 million and tons of drugs have been seized. I'll be referencing the Guardian newspaper for this because a lot of their stuff lately has been on point. Police have arrested more than 700 suspects, 54 million in cash and tons of drugs in the UK's biggest operation ever. Officials said that previously untouchable kingpins who have evaded justice for decades while enjoying flashy lifestyles were among those that were detained. High-level gangs, including those importing guns, drugs and people into Britain, have been targeted in a series of raids by law enforcement agencies against a secretive communication network that was known as EncroChat. It was used on bespoke mobile phones that were designed to be secure against police infiltration, and they started to spy on the users and harvesting their data as they carried on unaware. This is why the media, because they're so connected to the police, a lot of the time the police will tell them what stories not to cover, and this is why this story, I believe, potentially has had less coverage. Virtually nothing. There are 60,000 users worldwide and 10,000 users in the UK. The National Crime Agency, the NCA, said raids continued up until today. The sole use for coordinating and planning the distribution of illicit commodities, they said, money laundering and also plotting to kill rival criminals. So they actually said that this network was used a lot by hitmen. Of course, when it was originally created, it was made for celebrities who were scared of people hacking their information. This probably led from the News of the World, the newspaper that was hacking the phones of celebrities for stories. The platform was infiltrated by agencies in France and the Netherlands, and they shared it with Europol and partners in the UK. Unbeknown to the users throughout the whole time, the NCA and the police have been monitoring their every move ever since. It's the biggest and most significant operation of its kind in the UK. Hundreds of staff work to analyse the data and identify EncroChat users, working through millions and millions of messages and hundreds of thousands of images. It's resulted in 746 arrests in the UK so far, including, they say, high-value targets and iconic fugitives who have escaped justice until now. The operation has revealed the identities of an unknown number of corrupt police officers also, so they're actually saying that a lot of corrupt police have been discovered from this. Officials said that while police operations against gangs frequently see low-level operatives getting their hands dirty, Encro phones were only used by middle-tier and top-tier gangsters. Chief Constable Steve Jupp called the operation an unparalleled victory against criminals. By dismantling these groups, we have saved countless lives, protected communities across the UK. The raids so far have seized more than 54 million in cash. They have found 77 firearms, grenades, 1,800 rounds of ammunition, over 2 tons of Class A and B drugs, and 28 million Valium pills. Criminals have lost 55 high-value cars and 73 luxury watches. As a result of the intelligence-led police and NCA said they had prevented more than 200 threats to life by stopping rival gangs carrying out kidnappings and executions. In London alone, 1,400 Encro Chat users were found. The Metropolitan Police said that the operation enabled them to foil an assassination attempt in June and arrest a would-be gunman. Scotland Yard said it had detained members of one of the most organised crime gangs in the capital. The central figures of this group led lavish lifestyles and lived in multi-million-pound properties and drove top-of-the-range vehicles. They appear to be successful, respectable business people, but they are dangerous individuals. Nikki Holland, the NCA's Director of Investigations, likened the infiltration to having an inside person in every top organised crime group in the country. This is the broadest and deepest ever UK operation into serious organised crime. This is just the start of the operation and it will go on for a long time yet. I'd say any criminal who uses the encrypted phone should be very worried. The devices were Encro phones, bespoke mobiles that claimed anonymity with built-in security operating systems, encrypted messaging and calls, self-destructing text, and even a panic wipe function. The product was priced at $1,500 for a 6-month contract, but I've heard of them going up to £3,000. Encro phones became popular in 2017, onwards following the takedown of a BlackBerry PGP network. Matt Horn, the director of the NCA, said that the EncroChat network was completely for criminal purposes. He said Encro phones had become a requirement for organised criminal gangs involved in the importation of drugs, guns and people to the UK, as well as large-scale money laundering operations. The network was used for enforcing drug debts, fighting turf wars, competing markets, making threats, and planning attacks or assassinations. An Encro-enabled phone was previously used by a hitman who murdered Liverpool gangster John Kinsella in May 2019. That is in relation to the Paul Massey story, which I did cover in full, so go and watch that documentary if you'd like to learn the story about that. The Europe-wide operation against the European users started in April, but Miss Holland said the timing during the coronavirus pandemic was a coincidence. She added that it had worked to our advantage because criminals were at home when we were calling, and the police had greater capacity because of a drop in crime. They intensified the activity on the 13th of June after EncroChat's operators released their platform had been penetrated. Police had the domain seized illegally by government entities. The message said, "We can no longer guarantee the security of the device. You are advised to power off and physically dispose of your device immediately." Messages between British users were intercepted after the alert went out, included one reading, "The police are having a field day." If it's NCA, then we have an even bigger problem. EncroChat servers have now been shut down by the Home Secretary Preeti Patel. They said the work against similar devices would continue. This operation demonstrates that criminals would not get away with using encrypted phones to plot vile crimes under the radar. A recent example of the phones being hacked in a court case and in relation to drugs and importation is a case that's been heard in Lisbon Crown Court. A man is accused of being part of a large-scale criminal network and he's been refused bail. Detectives investigating the evidence of a large supply of drugs and importation have lawfully hacked a dealer's encrypted phone on Wednesday. This was in June 2020. He appeared at Newry Magistrates Court in Lisbon via video link from police custody. The 45-year-old Victor Notarantonio confirmed that he understood the 5 charges against him. Victor from Newry was charged in being concerned in the supply of Class A drugs, cocaine and Class B drugs, cannabis. Simple possession of cocaine and 2 counts of possessing criminal property, all alleged to have been committed between March the 25th and June the 5th, 2020. Detectives investigating the case, Constable Hamilton, found evidence that she believed could connect Victor to the offences. The prosecuting lawyer, Robin Steer, said there were objections to bail, outlining that essentially this is an investigation where the police obtained data from a mobile phone obtained under authorization indicating large-scale supply and importation of drugs. He described that during a search of Victor's home on Monday, police found a small amount of cocaine and 2 phones, 2 tablets, 2 pay-as-you-go SIMs, digital scales, financial documents and a pink notebook with transactions with 12 to 13 grand in cash. The court heard that during the search, Victor had been sitting on the sofa and beside him under a blanket was a blank encrypted phone. There was also a Samsung mobile phone in his pocket and Victor denied any knowledge of the Encro phone. Police believe the 2 devices were linked through messages. Mr. Steer said that on the Encro phone, police had uncovered a large quantity of messages relating to the supply of drugs, adding that police feared if Victor was granted bail, he was likely to commit a further offence or interfere with the investigation. He claimed that as well as being involved in drug dealing, Victor was part of a large-scale criminal network, and if he was let out, he would contact the others and warn them of what was happening. DC Hamilton also revealed on the day of the search that Victor had been attacked and beaten by a gang of men, so police also had fears for his own safety. Defence Secretary Kean Toner said Victor had given an innocent explanation for the presence of the money, claiming that some of it was from the sale of a van, a portion was savings and the rest was for a wedding present for his daughter. He submitted that he had no criminal record and the case could take more than a year to be investigated and dealt with bail conditions that could be put in place at his address that he wanted to stay at. Despite his defence, the bail application was not successful and they remanded him in custody until July the 15th. So that is an example of the connection to organised crime recently and also the connection with the phone hacking. One of the most known murders connected to encrypted phones was the murder of Martin Koch in 2016 in Holland, in Amsterdam. He was actually a former criminal and he'd become a blogger. He'd become a crime blogger, so he'd discuss about certain things and he was doing exposés and investigative journalism into criminal organised crime gangs that were still operating. So this made him the enemy of some Glasgow gangsters who had actually created an encrypted phone company themselves, allegedly during this time. It's said in the Daily Record that Scotland's most notorious organised crime gang with links to gun murders in the Netherlands. Martin Koch, a 49, who was a former murderer, he killed 2 people and been convicted of it. He was shot dead in a sex club in 2016. The Dutch officers probing the investigation said that his links to Scottish drug gangs were the reason why he was killed. They asked Scottish police for access to intelligence gained from an operation called Escalade that saw 9 members of a gang jailed for 87 years. It is believed that Martin's death involved members of a gang from Glasgow. They could not be named for legal reasons. Officers from Central Netherlands Police Force travelled to Scotland to meet detectives last month. They are also in exchange of information through international agencies, including Interpol. Detective Chief Superintendent Jerry McLean, head of organised crime and counter-terrorism, said, "I cannot comment on any investigation at the moment. However, the conviction and sentencing this year of involved criminals in the gang is significant in terms of disrupting their drug business." Koch was killed in a sex club in Lorraine just as he left it. Police drawed a blank on his killer, even though the murder happened on CCTV. Martin also had an earlier attempt on his life the same night that he died. Following his death, Dutch police released footage showing the failed murder bid outside the Citizen M Hotel in Amsterdam and the security camera images of his murder in the sex club car park. A photo emerged of him lounging on a bed inside the club, only wearing black pants and giving a double thumbs up to the camera. He left that club at 11:20. The surveillance footage shows the killer emerging from the bushes and shooting him as he gets into his Volkswagen Polo. When he was buried, mourners had to walk through metal detectors for fears of gangland violence, and his coffin was carried by 4 glamorous young women and champagne was served during the service. Dutch police said that Scottish detectives looked at the links to the senior crime group that was involved in the encrypted phones, and they were looking to see if coke was involved in the highest levels of the Escalade group. Most of the members are in jail, but major players are abroad. 9 people were jailed in relation to drug dealing, cocaine, firearms, serious violence and money laundering at the High Court in Glasgow in January. His story was definitely one of the major ones that led to the unravelling of encrypted phones and the connection that it had to organised crime gangs. Another example of Encro being used in drug cases, massive drug cases, is in Turkey. Turkish police confiscated more than 15 tons of heroin in the eastern province of Erzurum, marking the largest heroin seizure in the country's history. A total of 1 ton and 535 kilograms of heroin was found hidden among marble stones in 17 large sacks of a long rig truck on January the 24th. The governor's office said in a written statement, this was the largest amount of drugs seized in a single operation in the country. The truck was en route to Iran via Istanbul and was stopped by anti-drug squad of Turkish police. The driver of the vehicle, along with 3 other suspects in Istanbul to whom the heroin would be handed over, were arrested on charges of drug trafficking. According to police data, Turkish security forces had caught a total of 17.3 tons of heroin in 2018, arresting more than 1,500 suspects. This is where they believe a lot of these Encro chats are connected to, is to the connection and operation of major drug lines. Reading from the Evening Standard on Wednesday the 24th of June, weapons, watches and £100,000 were seized in South London raids targeting county line drug gangs. 6 people were arrested. 2 high-value watches, a machete, high-powered scooters and jewellery were also recovered in early morning raids in Wandsworth on Wednesday. 3 men and 3 women aged 18 to 24 were arrested on suspicion of Class A drugs and possession of property. The operation is led by Scotland Yard, South West Gangs and Proactive Unit. They were supported by the officers from Hampshire Constabulary and carried out 5 arrests at addresses across the county. The detective said the South West Gangs and Proactive Unit had a zero tolerance approach. And this is just a wave of different ones. In Birmingham, I've been told of about 60 arrests in connection to conspiracy cases being brought against Encro. So this story has been a long time coming, and there definitely won't be the last that you're going to hear about this. So make sure you turn on your bell for notifications and follow us online on Twitter, Facebook and also Instagram as well. We're trying to get to 100k followers on Instagram, so I'd really appreciate that if you went and followed on there. And also the brand new Facebook page, please go and like that page and send us all your stories as well. I really appreciate you joining me tonight. Please stay safe and please stay subscribed. Peace.